Hello, everyone. This is the Mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me today. I hope you are all doing well. For today's topic, I'm going to discuss the transit of Pluto in Aquarius through the 12 houses in astrology. So Pluto has finally settled into the sign of Aquarius after 16 years in the sign of Capricorn. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was in the 18th century from 1778 until 1798, and it began right after the American Revolutionary War, which was essentially started because American colonies were heavily taxed without having any representative power in government. The colonies rebelled against the British East India Company somewhat successfully, and the American Freemasons were allowed to establish a new city on a shining hill. So with Pluto in Aquarius, we have the combination of two very destabilizing forces for change that involve government, collective humanity, technology, freedom, and innovation. And some of us have already started to feel like the levity of this energy in comparison to the very heavy, dense, hard, dusty, stuck energy of Pluto and Capricorn, which was forming a trine with Uranus and Taurus. Lots of earth energy here. And earth energy is not as freeing or liberating as air energy. So some of us are already feeling the effects of the Pluto in Aquarius transit. We're feeling a bit more confident, more excited, more optimistic. We're looking forward to change in the future. And we're not as fearful of releasing or letting go of the past as we were while Pluto was in Capricorn. So again, with Pluto in Aquarius, we have the combination of two very destabilizing forces for change, which involve government, collective humanity, technology, freedom, and innovation. Pluto asks us to sacrifice the things that we value the most for what we want the most. And Pluto has a churning effect on the planets and houses, and this churning cycle facilitates endings and beginnings, gains and losses, and this process is for purification and transmutation. Sometimes we hold on to outdated beliefs, attitudes, relationships, and perspectives that prevent us from stepping into our true divinity. And Pluto transits force us to release this pent-up energy by relinquishing control. Now, this energy isn't being released to be discarded or thrown away. It's being released in order to be recycled into other areas of your life that need reformation and change. And most of the times we do this, and we go through this process of change and reformation by facing our deepest fears, which constitute our ego identity. And these experiences of change are usually painful, but ultimately they serve our highest good. So do not be afraid of the darkness. Grab a handful of breadcrumbs and step into the unknown where your instincts will serve you more than your intellect. Use your instincts to empower your intellect and let your fears be your guide. I'm not saying be reckless and irresponsible. I'm saying that most of the external things that we think we fear are actually shadow aspects of our identity, which we don't want to face. The energy of Pluto is obsessive, magnetic, and compulsory. So the more you resist the change, the more difficult this transition is going to be. So embrace the change, no matter how scary or uncomfortable. Now let's get into how Pluto in Aquarius will affect you individually as it transits through your houses. Okay, so let's discuss somebody with the sun or ascendant in Aquarius, which would place Pluto in the first house. The first house represents our physical presentation, how we relate to others based on how we've been socialized, and it also represents how we treat people to get what we want, whether it's attention, respect, friendship, power, etc. And with Pluto in the first house, your personality will change because of intense interactions with people that you are engaging with on an interpersonal level, albeit in your personal or professional relationships. You will be forced to acknowledge how your personality is either empowering or disempowering you, and there could be love-hate relationships as well as competition from jealous people or people looking to take your position. You may also suffer from jealousy if you think people have what you want. Power struggles in relationships may result in divorce and, in extreme cases, abuse. It will not be enough to place the blame on other people for how you're treating them or how you allow yourself to be treated. you will have to take a look in the mirror and acknowledge how your childhood or your family dynamics have shaped the persona that is affecting important relationships in your life. At some point, you may feel like everyone is your enemy, or you may elicit feelings of distrust from people who feel like you are power hungry and ruthless. And you may be willing to sacrifice your freedom and independence for a marriage or partnership that you believe will give you the power and security you are looking for, or vice versa. You may end up sacrificing a relationship or marriage to safeguard your identity and individual interests. So because of the churning cycle of Pluto, you may end up losing the very thing that you've sacrificed everything for because it was creating a false ego identity. Regardless of the fact, you are exceptionally strong at this time, and your muscularity may intrigue or intimidate people in your presence. Do not abuse your power, or you will attract formidable enemies. This transit will make you aware of your sovereignty and your potential, and you will do anything to reach your goals at this time. Pluto in the first house is also warning to be careful of your surroundings and your physical body, especially if you're attracted to drama and danger. If your marriage is on the rocks because you've lost yourself, then the marriage may end at this time. Now let's get into the second house, and this will apply to you if you have the sun or ascendant in the sign of Capricorn. The second house represents our values, our resources, and the practical things that give us stability. With Pluto here, a divorce may force you to rely on someone else's resources, or you'll be so focused on your financial security that you may not have time or energy for intimate romantic relationships, which may trigger feelings of vulnerability or being exposed. A financial crisis early in the transit may shift your focus to rebuilding what you've lost due to death, divorce, or some other financial setback. Some of you may become obsessed with money or security to the detriment of your relationships, and you may also be tempted to do sex work or be a sugar baby in some extreme cases, okay? There's also a possibility of getting money from a settlement, alimony, divorce insurance, which may help you to get back on your feet. Your relationship with money will change with your values, especially if you are using your money to control people, or if you are allowing people to control you with their money, or if you have been financially irresponsible in some way. Some of you will become very wealthy because of technology like cryptocurrency, but again, Pluto's energy is very volatile, so you could also incur significant losses in this area. By the end of this transit, you will see money as a resource to connect with your own personal power, which must be cultivated by your personal value system. If you don't value yourself, you will have a hard time managing your finances during this transit. Now let's talk about the third house, which is for Sagittarius sun or ascendant. The third house represents our thinking, communication, and skills, and it also represents our relationships with siblings and neighbors. Some of you may go back to school to learn new skills, a new language, and over the next 20 years, you may feel like you constantly have to learn new things to earn more money or to keep up with economic demands. If you already have a secure career, you're going to have to upskill and take initiative to develop professionally. There may be a desire to learn a new language or to teach young people. You're thinking about transforming or overhauling the education system or starting your own school and selling your own instructional resources. The third house also represents short distance travel, so some of you may feel restless and have to move several times during this 20-year period. You may start feeling claustrophobic if you don't travel or expand your consciousness in some way. And some of you may also become compulsive about collecting information, always feeling like you don't know enough or you need to learn more. You could also be attracted to gossiping or social media stuff, just really small bits of trivial data and information you can use for everyday conversations. But at some point, you need to synthesize all of these data points to create something new. You're feeling exceptionally creative and inquisitive about the world around you, and there's a risk of developing ADHD or discovering you have ADHD, or you'll have difficulty learning things deeply because you're rushing to consume as much information as possible, and during this transit, quantity is preferred over quality. Now let's get into Pluto and Aquarius in the fourth house for Scorpio, sun, or ascendants. The fourth house represents our foundations, our family, traditions, parents, our ancestry, and our nationality. This house also represents our inner or personal lives and how we get our emotional needs met. With Pluto transiting through this house, our personal and professional experiences will force us to reflect on our childhood family dynamics, which have shaped our personalities, our relationships, and our goals in life. These experiences will be intense and sometimes painful, yet powerfully transformative and liberating. You'll have to face your psychological and spiritual skeletons, which come from generational curses, which have shaped our unconscious reality. Intimate relationships will also change due to circumstances beyond your control, like age, illness, death, etc. There is also a compulsive desire to release the emotional and psychological baggage from the past in order to fulfill your life's purpose. You'll also become aware of how childhood trauma is affecting important personal and professional relationships. Your relationship with your parents will also change. You may end up becoming their caretaker or moving far away from your hometown. At some point, you may become reclusive, insecure, or closed off, which may prevent you from healing from your trauma. There's a fear of being exposed or losing support from family and loved ones. Pluto in the fourth house can sometimes manifest as feeling orphaned or homeless, and if your parents are in advanced age, there's a possibility they won't survive the 20-year transit. By the end of the transit, you will come to realize that you are your own source of security, and you'll have more confidence in your ability to survive in the world on your own without a spouse or family or friends and so on. This can sometimes be a lonely transit because it elicits introspection or reflection, and you really don't have the capacity or bandwidth to entertain, guests, friends, and people at this time. You're going through a lot of intense emotional experiences which need to be analyzed and assessed and evaluated, either by a professional therapist or psychologist or alone, okay? Now let's get into Pluto and Aquarius in the fifth house for Libra, Sun, and Ascendants. The fifth house is a lot more fun than the fourth house. It's the natural home of the fire sign of Leo, and it represents fun, creativity, romance, children, self-expression, but also gambling and investments. After going through Pluto in the fourth for 16 years, you can finally breathe a sigh of relief, especially if you have successfully resolved childhood and family issues. During this 20-year transit, you may develop a creative new hobby that you are passionate about, which could potentially earn you more money. Your new hobby could also be a person or a casual relationship that is both fun and passionate. Other people will find you very attractive or vice versa, and this can cause intense crushes and obsessions, which may lead to a whirlwind romance, and Libras love that. There's a possibility of meeting someone you'll end up marrying before the end of the transit, or you may just be satisfied with having a passionate fling or friends with benefits relationship where you're together because you want to be, not because you have to be. Because again, the fifth house is about freedom, what you choose to do. This relationship, however, can result in pregnancy, and the birth of the child will definitely change the fun dynamic of this partnership, and it could possibly end it. So if you're sexually irresponsible, you could also have an unexpected pregnancy, which will force you to grow up. But if you don't want to grow up, you'll end up breaking up, okay? So you're also feeling more confident and will engage in riskier behavior to express yourself more creatively. There's a risk of developing a gambling habit or become heavily invested in financial speculation in the stock market or cryptocurrency, especially while Uranus transits through Gemini from 2026 until 2034. During this transit, you may lose friendships because of a relationship. Just think about how Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown became reclusive in the late 1990s and early 2000s when Pluto was in Sagittarius, which is Whitney Houston's fifth house from her sun. Whitney and Bobby were so consumed with each other and their relationship that other aspects of their lives fell apart, including their professional and parenting responsibilities. You may resent anyone or anything that gets in the way of your fun and your freedom, and you may also have a very public, passionate, and intense relationship with someone that plays out like a Hollywood movie for better or worse. Drama is the order of the day for you, but it is fun drama, not Pluto in the 8th house or Pluto in the 4th house drama, okay? All right, now on to the 6th house, which is for Virgo sun and or ascendants. So with Pluto in the 6th house, it is time to get back to business. The 6th house is not as fun as the 5th house. This house represents our health, lifestyles, work ethic, hygiene, legal matters, a service to others, and our little pets. If you're very young, this house will force you to mature and think about practical matters like your health, education, career, lifestyle, goals. You won't feel like running around with no responsibilities either to yourself or other people, especially if you had children while Pluto was in your 5th house. You may meet a lot of friends at work, or your friends will be very focused on their careers. You may also become interested in social work, nursing, analytics, or working with animals. There is also a possibility of adopting your first pet or becoming really attached to a pet during this time. You're learning how to manage your time, energy, and resources effectively to accomplish your goals, and you could experience unexpected changes in your career due to technology, the state of the economy, or health issues. There is increased anxiety about how to get things done, how to manage different responsibilities, and there is less time for fun and leisure, even on your off days. It will be hard for you to relax, especially if you already have a worrying or anxious nature. You're a lot more practical, stable, reserved, and patient to the point of self-denial. But Virgos are naturally this way anyway, so you should be relatively comfortable with this transit. Pluto in Aquarius will also make you more susceptible to communicable or airborne diseases that affect the lungs and digestion, like food poisoning or the flu. There's also a possibility of working yourself so hard that it breaks your body down. You need to make sure to incorporate self-care routines in your daily life, whether it's meditation, going to the gym, reading a good book, or treating yourself to a spa day once in a while. Now let's get to the 7th house for Leo suns and ascendants. Okay, by the end of the previous transit, your life should be relatively stable and even predictable to an extent. If you're a Leo rising, Pluto will be transiting through your 7th house over the next 20 years. For Leo, the 7th house is fun. It is 60 degrees away from the 5th, and it's ruled by Venus and the air sign Libra. But the 7th house also rules open enemies, lawsuits, marriage, and counseling relationships. You may end up getting married, divorced, and then married again during this transit, depending on your age, because again, it's a 20-year transit. Pluto in this house will bring you relationships that force you to sacrifice your individual needs and your freedom for your partner. And some of you guys will be all too happy to do this if the connection is intense enough. However, as I mentioned earlier, the energy of Pluto is about transformation through crises. Pluto in Aquarius crises can cause social isolation or being ostracized at the hands of your partner, or you and your partner may end up being so wrapped up in each other that you destroy each other. There could be jealousy among friends, or friends may try to sabotage your relationship with your partner for their benefit. What was once a passionate, committed relationship may devolve into a prison of obsession and abuse. There may be a fear of releasing this relationship because you've sacrificed so much of yourself for it and you've fought so hard to make it work, and at the end of the day, you don't want to look like a fool or walk away empty-handed. So you may stay in the relationship until it becomes too painful or embarrassing, especially if everybody knows your business. And so if you were like Instagram, Black couples, goals, internet, social media, goals, couples, whatever, if your relationship became part of your persona, you may hold on to it past its expiration date because you don't want to be embarrassed, right? So yeah, don't do that. Now let's go to Pluto in the 8th house for Cancer suns and ascendants. So Pluto in the 8th house is interesting because it's at home here. This is the natural house of Scorpio, which rules secrets, betrayals, sexuality, intensity, mortality, fear, violence, and transformation. The 8th house also represents divorces, inheritance of estates, lawsuits, child support, and other unearned income. I also think that it represents secret enemies, just like the 12th house, but these secret enemies once had an intimate relationship with you as either friends or former lovers. Pluto in the 8th could also increase paranoia, especially if you've been a bully or have harmed people in some way. There's a fear of karmic retribution that causes you to close off or distrust people in ways that prevent you from forming intimate relationships. You could end up betraying the person closest to you, or you'll experience this, which will cause a relationship to end, especially if the foundation was rocky and dysfunctional in the first place. This transit lasts for 20 years, so inevitably people will get old, sick, and die, okay? And your perspectives about these experiences will change radically over this period as you come face to face with life and death issues. In extreme circumstances, okay, this is not for everybody, but in extreme cases, you may survive a near-death experience, which helps you to resolve your deepest fears about illness, death, and loss. And some of you may become passionate about the unseen mysteries of life, from spirituality or obsessing over what your partner is doing behind your back. Try to come up for air once in a while, let your hair down, have some fun, good clean fun, because there's a risk of becoming obsessed with sex or developing a sex addiction. And also, risky sexual behavior is not advised. There's a risk of contamination from sexual activity, so be very careful. Take up a fun, passionate hobby which will connect you to people outside of your bubble. You're learning how to trust others by trusting yourself. And you'll realize at some point that all of your fear, paranoia, and mistrust may be caused by an innate sense of powerlessness that stems from a poor moral compass, childhood trauma, and limited resources. You'll realize that power doesn't come from money, it comes from your moral code and your value systems. The people who have hurt or betrayed you may disappear from your life, leaving you to deal with whatever pain they've inflicted on you by yourself. So you have to learn how to let that go. There could be feelings of guilt and karmic retribution due to past mistakes in relationships or with your children. So try not to be too hard on yourself. Try to again embrace the process of healing and transformation, and face your shadow. Do not allow other people to weaponize your insecurities against you. Nobody is perfect. Don't demand perfection of others, and don't demand it of yourself either. Do the best you can and then move on from there. Okay. 9th house for Gemini sun and ascendants. Pluto in the 9th house is not as intense as the 8th or the 7th house. This is a house of philosophy, foreign affairs, legal matters, and long-distance travel. After dealing with the hard, dry energy of Pluto in the 8th house for the past 16 years, you may have a new lease on life. You're ready to travel and explore the world or expand your consciousness by going back to school to learn about worldly matters like politics, religion, philosophy, the law, etc. You're learning for fun, not because you have to. There may also be interest in moving abroad to another country for study or just for the experience, right? You may even decide to start a political career or become an activist of some sort. You may feel like you have an obligation to share your knowledge in order to change the world and enlighten others in some way. Some of you will also begin your literary careers as writers, publishers, editors, and content creators, and you'll feel compelled to share knowledge and teach other people about your personal gospel. Some of you guys may also become very religious or spiritual and seek the wisdom of a guru to help you to cultivate a new belief system or value system for yourself, which aligns with your changing worldview, okay? Now let's get into the 10th house for Taurus sun and ascendants. When Pluto transits the 10th house, external or personal circumstances like financial changes or divorce or the death of parents force you to adjust your career aspirations to be more ambitious. Some of you have been settling for good enough. Now you will confront your fears about being recognized for your talents. Over the past 16 years, you've spent a lot of time traveling and learning and gaining new experiences, and now you have to apply them to your work, okay? You may switch careers or start your own business. At the end of this cycle, you could very well be in an executive position with a lot of prestige and respect. The journey will not be easy or simple, but you won't care. You'll be laser focused on accomplishing your goals so that you can feel more secure about yourself in general. During this transit, you will explore your childhood experiences for emotional support or to release baggage, which is preventing you from reaching self-actualization. This is a 20-year transit, so you may go through highs and lows or ebbs and flows on the road to fulfillment. During the low phases, you have to face your shadow and sacrifice your emotional and psychological hangups in order to step into your purpose. There will be times where you question your goals and you'll have to pivot to get around insurmountable obstacles like discrimination, economic shifts, downsizing, and technology. And you'll have to deal with authority figures who want to challenge you, and these challenges are necessary to build your character, so don't get discouraged. You may have to go back to school again to increase your knowledge and skills. The good news is that this square creates an inner tension, which gives you a lot of willpower and determination. You won't give yourself a pity party. You will continue to push onward and upward up the mountain of success and fulfillment. Your family, spouse, and children can also be a source of inspiration for you. Make sure you incorporate self-care into your schedule so that you remain positive and energized. And again, just like Scorpio, your relationship with your parents may change. They're getting older, okay? And it's 20 years. 20 years is a long time. A lot can happen in that time period. You may end up becoming their caregiver, or they may end up moving in with you, or you may end up having to take care of them like during hospice care or something like that, okay? So, 11th house. This is for Aries, Sun, and Ascendant. Pluto has left your 10th house, and it's now time to have a little bit of fun with your newfound success. You're feeling more fearless, liberated, optimistic, and free from the past. As your social status has changed, so have the people you associated with. Your new network will reflect your success and work ethic. There is a possibility of unhealthy competition or jealousy among equally ambitious friends and associates who share your values and your income. Some of you may become more interested in humanitarian causes or political activism. There's a desire to rebel against the status quo, the group, the organization, and even society. There's also a possibility of you becoming rebellious for no reason, or having a lot of power over a large group of people, or even becoming ostracized by society due to some sort of moral failure. The choice is yours, to be honest, right? The 11th house is just like the 8th and the 5th. These are houses of extremes. The energy oscillates from fixed, static, and predictable to wildly unstable and chaotic. The magnitude of that oscillation depends on how tightly you hold on to people, places, things, and ideas that are oppressive and outdated. With this transit, you'll become an agent of change on a social level, or you'll be significantly impacted by social changes like economic shifts, wars, pandemics, etc., okay? Also, before I forget, with this transit, you may also be more susceptible to airborne illnesses that affect the lungs, or you could be forced to quarantine. Some of you will be initiated or invited to join exclusive clubs with power brokers who influence society. And while these relationships are really cool and they're helpful for your professional and personal advancement, they can also be precarious if you're seen as a troublemaker or a disruptor. For example, suppose you're invited to join this exclusive club, but you see a lot of racism, a lot of corruption, a lot of elitism, and you call these people out. You could be kicked out of the club or punished for calling out injustices and unfairness, which is whatever, right? That's up to you, okay? And last but not least, Pisces, Sun or Ascendant for Pluto in the 12th house. Pluto has left your 11th house and entered your 12th house of endings, hospitalizations, and ego release. If you have a chronic health issue, please stay on top of it because your body and your immune system is weaker and more sensitive than normal. An unexpected health crisis may make you aware of hidden health issues that you've ignored for a long time. These health challenges will require a complete overhaul or change in your diet and lifestyle. Some of you may decide to go vegan or vegetarian or stop eating sugar or gluten or something altogether. No matter what health challenges you face, remember that you have the power to do anything, especially with Pluto in the 12th house. The 12th house is the house of faith, belief, and power that comes after a serious crisis. If you have faith in your ability to heal, you will not only survive, but thrive and be in a position to help others. A perfect example of this is Tabitha Brown. Tabitha Brown is an Aquarius sun. She went through Pluto in her 12th house from her sun for 16 years. And she talked about developing some sort of immune disorder and also a lot of allergic reactions. Her body was breaking down from the toxic foods that she was eating, and it forced her to become a vegan. And now she has a whole lifestyle brand, and she's a multimillionaire because she learned how to heal her body through veganism and healthy living. And so this is a potential of Pluto in the 12th house. Things may seem bleak, but you have the potential to change if you believe in yourself. She always talks about believing in yourself. This transit is all about mind over matter. Yes, things may seem extreme, they may seem dire or scary, but you have the ability to conquer anything you put your mind to if you have total faith and belief in your ability to heal and resolve these issues. But you must have the courage and determination to fight back even when things look bleak. Also, you'll be coming face to face with your deepest fears that are contributing to your self-destructive and self-limiting behavior. Some of you may go through an existential crisis where you feel like you don't have a purpose. It is important to transmute this confusing energy into service work like nursing, volunteering for the sick and elderly, helping the homeless, or by sharing your survival stories. By connecting with people in need, you'll learn to appreciate your blessings and your own humanity. Nobody has the perfect life. With Pluto in the 12th house, you'll stop living for other people and you'll start living for yourself, because anything else will be vainglorious and egotistical. You're learning compassion, forgiveness, self-love, courage, and humility. Some of you may also develop an interest in healing practices like meditation, Reiki healing, psychotherapy, and even communicating with your ancestors for extra support. Whatever nightmares you may experience during this period, fight through them. Don't run away, okay? Now, on the other hand, with Pluto in the 12th house, some of you may find out about secret enemies, or you'll realize that you have been your own worst enemy. This transit has the potential to be very healing as long as you stay vigilant and flexible. If you're engaged in criminal activities, drugs, crime, violence, whatever, the likelihood of you getting imprisoned is very high during this transit. So stay on the straight and narrow and don't allow fear, anxiety, depression, and anger to put you on the path to addiction and self-destruction. You have to remember that you are more powerful than the challenges you face. You may become a counselor or therapist to help other people who are struggling with their mental health, addictions, or other issues. Do not use drugs and alcohol as a clutch. Pisces, Sun, Moon, Ascendants, don't do it, because it will be harder for you to climb out of that hole than it was to get into it. It's a trap, especially during this transit, okay? All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. If you want to order your own personal reading, the link's in the description box. I look forward to reading your feedback. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.